तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्.
So first and foremost, I offer my love, myself in love at Swami's divine lotus feet, and I pray to him that he is with us at all times and he keeps us all very near and dear to him at his feet and in his heart at all times. I think that is the biggest blessing that we can all have in our lives, having been born as human beings. It's a wonderful topic, service, selfless service as sadhana for spiritual progress in our life. I think this is a topic that is very dear to Swami as well, because all his discourses, if you see, Swami is emphasizing, he's highlighting this point, service and spirituality. And his life's mission and his avataric mission and avataric message on earth is encapsulated in these two words, service and spirituality. Love all, serve all. There is no higher spirituality than love, because Swami says to us that God is love. So Swami does say to us, all the time that God is love. And what higher spirituality can be there than divinity? Being born as human beings, our main purpose is to transform ourselves from human beings into divinity, or to experience in our lives, in ourselves, divinity all the time. God is love, Swami says. But Swami also said that you too have love, and we have seen this in our own selves, in every human being. In fact, not just human being, in every living being, even an animal or a plant or various beings, there is love. So if there is love in me and if there is love in divinity, what is the difference? I think the journey from man to God, or from human being to a divine personality, is this journey from limited love to limitless love. Swami's love is limitless. Our love, although we have it, because of our own limitations, we have limited it. And the limitation is primarily selfishness, me and mine, ego and attachment. And I think this is because of a very warped or distorted vision of what we are. So it is up to us to remove those limitations, and then we can be closer, and we can be getting closer to this limitless love, which is God, and which I feel this is the spiritual journey, and there is no other spirituality than this. I remember once we were a group of youngsters, youth, and we were all doing Seva activities in various parts of Hyderabad, the city that I come from. in India and in Andhra Pradesh. And Swami used to interact with us. Of course, being youngsters, you know how they are. They're all full of energy, monkey mind, monkey mischief. And Swami would tolerate all that and still give us a lot of love. So in one of the interviews, when Swami was interacting, one of the brothers asked Swami, Swami, you love us so much. You give us so much love. We sometimes follow your command. Sometimes we don't follow what you're saying. Our mind is going in different directions. But yet you give us so much love. Why is it, Swami? Why do you give us so much love? And Swami, instant reaction was, what can I do? That's my nature. What can I do? That's my nature. So for us to go to an extent where, irrespective of the trespasses around us, that we are able to only naturally respond to people with love, I think that is the sadhana, that is the journey we all want to undertake and we all wish to undertake. When we participate in Seva activities, my own journey has been a journey of many lessons. You derive so much happiness when you participate in Seva. You strengthen your faith. Actually, your faith deepens, because when you participate in Seva, there are challenges also. And then when you, with faith, leave it at Swami's feet, seek his help. In fact, many times without seeking, Swami comes to your rescue. And then you know that, your faith goes so deep that God is omnipresent, that his love is inexhaustible, infinite. You experience these. They just are no more just words, but they become a reality for us. Also, when we participate in different Seva activities, there are many things that automatically start to happen. I mean, you cannot be participating in Seva activities without a degree of automatic, call it sacrifice, call it tyaga in Sanskrit, or call it renunciation. These might seem like big words to all of us who are living a very, sort of regular, mundane lives in this world, working, going to work, having a family, and all of that. Words like renunciation might sound very big. But however, when you participate in Seva, this process is happening automatically. So the sadhana of realizing or divinizing ourselves happens even without our knowledge, when we just go and participate in a Seva activity. Of course, Seva can be done individually and collectively. And when you do it collectively, you also find that your vision changes. The way you, interact with people, you have to interact with people, and automatically these challenges of me and myself and ego and all these things, anger even, these are all the corollaries of ego and attachment, greed, jealousy, all these things like a mirror, they stand in front of us. And then oh gosh, I didn't realize that this was there. Or if you have realized, then you start to feel a little uncomfortable with that and start to do it yourselves. We don't need to do anything else except go and participate in Seva activities. And these processes happen on their own. This has been my experience. I am no great expert in this. It is a journey. It is a process. And Swami has given us the principles, the broad framework of how to participate in Seva. And then unless we practically we put it into practice, once we start doing that, then the transformation process starts and happens in an automatic way. This is my strong belief based on my own personal experience. There is a long way to go, but this is the only way to go. If we just close ourselves and then say, I love everybody, it does not work, because love and service are two sides of the same coin. We can't be saying that we love is the highest goal of spirituality and I love everybody, but then we don't respond, our heart doesn't respond or react to the needs of those around us. So Swami himself, the avatar, the very embodiment of love who has come down on earth, is actually the one who is doing the most service. We might feel that we are doing service, but he is the one who is doing service for us. So the more loving you are, the more you are in service, and the more in service you are, the more the love that you fill, your heart is filled with. I am reminded of Swami's poem. Swami's poems are so succinct, so simple, yet they give such a deep meaning, and they summarize many dictums of Vedas and sacred texts and put it in such a simple language. And I happen to speak the same language in which Swami used to recite his poems, so the Telugu poems, and that really used to touch my heart. I'm sure it touches many people's hearts. And one such poem in Telugu, which Swami had narrated, I would like to share with you. It summarizes what I have said so far, I think. So it goes like this. దేవుడెచటనుచు దేవులాడగనేలా హృదయమందులేడే ఈశ్వరుండు. దేవుడెచటనుచు దేవులాడగనేలా హృదయమందు కల్లేడే ఈశ్వరుండు. ఇచ్చుకొనుడు సేవా పుచ్చుకొనుడు ప్రేమ. ఇచ్చుకొనుడు సేవా పుచ్చుకొనుడు ప్రేమ. అటులే దైవతత్వం అరయురండి. అటులే దైవతత్వము. అటులే దైవతత్వం అరయురండి. You go in search of God, searching here, there, and everywhere. Is God not there in your heart? You offer service to all beings and you receive love. And that is the way to realize your own divine self. This is what Swami says to us in such simple, beautiful words. So my sadhana or my journey in this process began when I was very young. As Veera had said, I was very lucky to be born into a Sai family, and my parents were involved in bhajans and Nagar Sankirtan, Narayan Seva. Within the community that we were living, our house was the kind of central hub where all these things used to happen. So I was very lucky to be born, and this is where I realized that it's very important for us to share what we have learned at Swami's feet with our youngsters, with our children, with our friends, because it has a huge impact on that individual as well as on on the community, on the family also. So these things started, the bhajans and everything. I remember very young. I probably was very young, 6, 7, maybe around that. And I was very, remember this incident so strongly because it imprinted on my mind. As a youngster, I wanted to buy some shoes or something, and I was waiting for 2 or 3 days, and my dad finally found some time, and he was going to take me and get some shoes. Just as we were going, one of the ladies who we knew in that community, who had recently lost her husband and had 3 little kids, came and met my dad and mom. I don't know what happened after that. My dad just came and said that we are not going to buy your shoes today. We'll do it later. And I went into a tantrum, big tantrum, and making a big fuss about it and all that. He tried explaining, but it didn't register. So after a couple of maybe hours, when I calmed down, then he came and said, that auntie who came, she needed some money because she was going through some tough time, and therefore we had to give it to her, and that is why we are not able to go and get your shoes today. And therefore, for them, it sort of brought this thing in my mind that that we might want something, but when we are helping others, even if it means at some discomfort to yourself, is the most important thing that is of primary importance than my own desire. Of course, at that age, I probably might not have understood all this, but as I grew up and as I and understood what Swami was saying about sealing on desires and what we need, and within those needs also what is a more important need, made me look or actually lead my life in a way keeping this aspect clearly in focus. I don't think I did any tyaga at that time myself, but the concept of tyaga or sacrifice had clearly imprinted in my little head at that time. And as you see, even when I came to UK, for example, I saw one Sai center around the Milton Keynes area in UK. At that time, I was a trustee as well as, I think, the national president of the Sai organization. And I was so touched by a particular project that they had wanted to do. They did it so quietly. And this is the beauty of Swami's work. It's mostly done quietly. We don't know. A lot of people do it in their own nice little way as their offering to Swami. And so these people group a couple of centers maybe, and whoever was there, the youngsters, the elders, everybody in those centers, they decided that for 1 hour in the evening, once a week, for 3 months, they would switch off all their electronic gadgets. So everything they switched off around in the house. And they calculated how much money was being saved on the electricity. All that money that was saved, they put together. And with that, they wanted to sponsor solar lamps in a remote place in Malawi, the African country, to give it to 700 school children who didn't have any electricity whilst they were preparing for their board exams. I was so moved by this gesture and by this project. I thought, see, wonderful how Swami actually touches so many hearts through this program of sealing on desires. And sealing on desires is only 50% of the concept, where you put a ceiling on your desire. But with this second 50% is of being of some help, being of some service to those in need. Only when these two are clubbed together, that's when the whole entire process becomes a spiritual exercise. And as an offering to the Lord, it changes, it enhances our spiritual journey, and it sends us much further forwards. So these concepts of sacrifice, of renunciation, or sealing on desires, whatever name we want to call it by, is automatically sort of is inherent to the very concept of seva. So by participating more in it, I think these things become natural to us. As Swami says, self-confidence, self-sacrifice, self-satisfaction, and then self-realization. Self-confidence is nothing but faith. Where there is faith, there is love, Swami says. Where there is love, there is peace. Where there is peace, there is truth. Where there is truth, there is God, and that is realization. So even in these steps, the self-confidence is nothing but faith. Faith in ourselves, in my own divinity, that in my heart, there are very positive feelings. Sometimes I may not be aware of it. I may be thinking I'm a sinner. But no, I'm actually, Swami says, Prematma Svarupulara. Swami says, Divyatma Svarupulara. That means the God is existent in me. When I participate in seva, not only my negative aspects might come and face me, but even my positive aspects, they actually get intensified. We can feel the love. As a youngster, we used to do Narayan Seva at home. About 300, in India, I don't know if you know, we call them as beggars. They're in tatters, they're in rags, they're struggling, they don't have food, shelter, home. They're living in some little tent somewhere. No healthcare, none of that. And once in a month at our home, 20 families used to get together, and about 300 such poor people used to be fed food. Now, I remember as I was growing up, in the food, we will give them, let us say, an Indian sweet meat, a laddu, as you know, we all have received from Swami at various times, or you give them a banana and all. These young children, all the elders will come, they'll run to you and want to take the laddu. Oh, sir, please give me this laddu, please give me that. Just looking at the joy on their face, you used to feel so lovely, so beautiful. All we were doing was once a month giving them some food, but that was enough to give them such joy. When you see their joy, you feel so happy. I would, as a youngster, go into the market, and some of these people would be there, and they would recognize me from a distance and come to me and wish me and then say, sir, how are you doing? May God bless you. Such blessings you receive from people who you serve, such love you receive from people who you serve, that you automatically become a higher self. Just like we all run to Swami, they all run to us. For them, they see God in us just for having given one laddu, that's all. But it makes you understand the power of love. At one time, whilst involved in service, my parents had passed away. Both my parents, mother and father, had passed away. And these poor, for want of a better word, and for in English is not their best word, beggars is the word. These people got together, all of them, pulled up some money, and they themselves bought a big garland of roses to come and offer it at my parents, when they passed away. What more can one get, or can one take with us when we pass away, apart from the love of people we serve? Those blessings, many times I used to feel as a surgeon, some complicated procedure I would be doing. Those around me would say, hey, how did you manage that? You must be a good man. Somebody is protecting you. And I used to feel that it was the blessings of these people who used to say to me, sir, may you have a good life. May your family be well protected. The blessings that these people gave was the one that was actually protecting me. We know of stories where, of one Mr. T.G. Krishnamurti, a very famous devotee of Swami. He also, when his life gets saved, Swami says it's the merits that you accrued by seva, by doing seva, that has come to your rescue at that time. So I think this, for me, as a personal experience, it was that when we participate in these activities, the love that you receive from those who you serve is actually purifying your heart, and getting you closer to your divine self, getting you closer to the presence of Swami and divinity. Seva and faith again is another aspect. I think the sadhana of seva inculcates in you, strengthens the faith that is there. We start with faith. That's how love develops, as Swami said. But it's not a point 1 to point 2 journey. It's a you go from there, your faith becomes stronger. Then you go further, faith becomes stronger. That's how it goes on. And I remember that Swami says, isn't it? You do my work, I'll do yours. That is the assurance that Swami gives us. So I remember I had typhoid, high fever, and all of that. And my father was involved in some seva activity, and he had to go there at that time. Then my father said that to my mother that I'm going. Swami will look after this. I don't need to worry. And rightly so, by the evening, my fever and my typhoid and everything had started to settle down. So in a way, it strengthens your faith. I remember once when we were doing Gram Seva, as a youth of Hyderabad, we all used to go into different villages and do Gram Seva. Swami was very interested in that. Swami would ask us, which village did you go? What did you do? How many people you served? Hey, you tell them this, you tell them that. Like that, Swami used to constantly interact with us. So we used to hire buses, and a lot of youngsters used to join that bus, and we would hire and take them to these villages. Once we thought that, we are spending a lot of money on hiring these buses. Why don't we buy our own bus? I mean, for youngsters, we are not even earning. And for us to buy a bus, 200,000 Indian rupees in those days was a lot of money. You won't believe, we just thought about it in Vrindavan at the time. We just came out. We came across a gentleman who used to work for the Road Transport Corporation. He came straight to us and I said, hey, I heard that you're all taking buses and going to Gram Seva to do the Seva activity in the villages. I have a bus which I want to donate to you. You can go and do Seva in the villages. Once about 700 youth Swami had called into the Purnachandra auditorium during Mahashivratri time. And I think it was 1994, around that time. And Swami told us, what are you worried about? You go and do my work. You go and participate in seva activities. I will let the god of wealth, which is called Kubera, he will shower gold coins on you. I will make him shower gold on you. You just go and do seva activities. You go and help wherever the help is needed. So this is the kind of faith that is instilled in you when you undertake Swami's activities. I remember once in UK, we were told that in Sierra Leone, about 5,000 families in a particular part of Sierra Leone who were going through a dry season. For 4 months, they would not have any work. Their fields would be dry. They would not get any grain, no harvest. Food is a difficult proposition. And when we worked out, for 5,000 families, it worked out that if you give 3.5 pounds, each one of the adults would be fed for 3 months. All it needed was 3.5 pounds. And we thought, what shall we do? And so in a Sai center that we were there, we just announced, we never asked for money, but we announced that this is the state. If anyone is interested, we are putting a little box in near Swami's thing. It's up to you. What you want to give, you give. People came and in their own way, they put something, and even youngsters. I remember one very young boy who was in a school or something. He then said, I'm going to not have my pizza for the next 2 weeks. And whatever it was, 10 pounds or whatever it was, he came and put it in that. So on the day when we had to open it, we set a date and said, by this time you give whatever comes into that. And in fact, for 2 weeks around that time, people could not come because of some reason. So some said, no, let us extend the time. We said, no, we said to Swami that by this time we'll open this box. So we'll open whatever it is. We were sat in a group of us, in Swami's near Swami's altar, opened the box. We were 120 pounds short of the actual amount. You won't believe it. As we were closing the account, one elderly gentleman knocked on the door and said, I'm sorry, I couldn't come on time. I've got this envelope for you. Please add this also to this amount. When we opened it and when he counted it, exactly 120 pounds. Now, I'm sure many of us who are in this satsang have had many such instances where our faith is deepened by participating in the Seva activities. Even now in the trust, I'm as a trustee of the Sai Trust in UK, I can tell you, even as recently as just a few weeks ago, there was a project that we had undertaken. When we started, we didn't know whether we will get that money or not or whatever, but we thought this is a wonderful project, Swami's. With faith in Swami and everything, we just let all our, whoever is associated with our trust, we let them know this is the project we are undertaking. And you will not believe all that was needed has already come. So this is how, when our motives are good, when we want to participate in a Seva activity, do something good out of love in our hearts, then this faith is very important, that Swami is there. He is the one. He is the actual doer. He is the actual owner. We are only his instruments, nothing else. If once we have this feeling and then participate, it becomes a sadhana in itself. Then our spirituality is already raised out of that. I'm just looking at my time. I'll just one or two more and then I will finish. The other thing that Seva as a sadhana does to us is that it broadens, it purifies our heart, it broadens our vision, it brings in a sense of unity. You're not actually serving others, and service just doesn't mean a particular activity or a particular a particular thing. It could be anything. It could be physical. It could be our time. It could be our prayer. It could be a kind word to someone. It could be a smile. It could be a gentle look at somebody, acknowledging somebody's presence. Small things can be service. It doesn't need to be a big Seva project, because for Swami that doesn't matter. For spirituality, for love, it doesn't matter. With what sense, with what feeling in our heart have we undertaken that activity, whichever that activity might be? That's what transforms us and leads us into towards God. So in unity, I remember again, Swami used to say to us that if 10 of you come to me and say, Swami, each one of us have constructed a road for a village, Swami said, I won't be that impressed. But if 10 of you come together and say to me that, Swami, together we constructed one road, I will be very happy. For Swami, this unity was the main kind of a principle. Activity itself was not important, but the way in which it was done, with love, with unity, with the feeling of unity in our heart, that was very, very important for Swami as in Seva as a sadhana. Swami narrated a story where he said, you must go and narrate this story everywhere, to everyone, wherever you go. And the story was that there was a sadhu who was walking along a road, and then he sees a little lamb stuck in a very slushy mud. One foot stuck in it, and one, the little one is trying to extricate itself from this slushy mud and struggling. And there are some youngsters, some people around, the villagers, who are laughing, having a fun, and in fact, some of them even throwing stones at this poor one. And this sadhu or this gentleman who is walking there, he goes and picks up the lamb and rescues it. So all these people, they come to him and say, hey, what, you think you're a hero or what? You're taking this lamb out. You think you've saved, you're a big savior. And he says, no, it was not that I felt I was a savior. I could not tolerate the pain. I was feeling the pain in my heart when that little one was trying to struggle. It is to alleviate my pain that I went and picked him up from that slush. Swami used to say, that is how your seva should be. Your seva is not because you are a savior or you're helping somebody else. You are helping yourself. You are only relieving your pain. Your heart cannot actually see the distress of somebody else. And that's why you go and you respond automatically, spontaneously. I remember once as a doctor, we were doing medical camps in and around Puttaparthi as Swami students. And we went to Swami once with a big report in the evening and said, Swami, we did this, we did that. Swami said, okay, why did you go and do this in the village? Somebody said, Swami, because there is a lot of such disease, therefore we went and we did it. Then Swami was not impressed. Hey, why did you go? Then somebody said, gave some other answer. Swami, because you said we should go and do service. The Swami was not impressed by that also. Like that, there were about half a dozen answers. Swami kept asking. Then we became quiet. We didn't know what to say. Then Swami said, you went there because your heart felt that it was your mother who was suffering, that it was your brother who was suffering, not that they had a disease. That was secondary. If your mother is unwell, do you wait for your neighbor to come and tell you, hey, your mother is unwell, please take her to the hospital? Or will you automatically get up and go and help that person? It is with that sense of kinship. It is with that sense of identification. It is with that sense of us being a part of a bigger family that you go and you help and you do whatever you can to do your best. So Swami is constantly teaching us that it's not just the activity, but it is this recognition that the God that is the love or the God that is there in me is there everybody around, in everybody around me. That is what is our spiritual sadhana. If we are able to keep that in mind and participate in any activity, even in our own work. Some of us may not have time because of our professions or because of our ability to go and do a lot of things. It doesn't matter. Whichever little thing that we can do, I think with love in our heart, that is sadhana. And there is no other bigger sadhana than this. You all might remember one Swami publicly, in a public discourse, mentioned the name of a gentleman called Gopal Rao Garu. I was there in Prashantilam at the time, I was living in UK, but I went for darshan. And in that discourse in the evening, Swami mentions about this gentleman. He's a 100-year-old gentleman. He was a big, official in his life. Of course, at 100 years, he was still able to walk. And Swami said, Gopal Rao goes to the South Indian canteen every afternoon and serves water for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes and then goes on his way and rests in his room. At 100 years, Swami said he is able to do that much. That little he can do, he can go and do. So each of us, in our own way, we can do, if there is a community center nearby, if there is some other place nearby where we can go and offer a little bit of help to someone, and there is always someone or the other who is in need, a bit of a kind word or whatever we want to, sort of do. I feel that as Sai devotees and as spiritual aspirants, as as people on this journey, we should take that opportunity and follow Swami's command. Swami says the biggest service that you can do is to realize yourself. That is the biggest service. And how do I realize myself? The only way I can realize myself is through the path that Swami has taught us, which is that whatever I do it with love in my heart and with a sense of dedication at Swami's feet. If I clean my house, then let it be with the feeling that I am actually cleaning the house, making it fit enough for the Lord to stay here. If I'm cooking some food for my family or for my own self or for whoever, I am cooking this because it is Swami who is coming to dinner along with me. Once we divinize every activity like this, I think that becomes the day-to-day sadhana that we can do. I mean, if we have love in word, if we have love in action, then if we have love in thought, if we have love in feeling, then we have sanctified our lives beyond measure. By following these human values, we have divinized ourselves. And I think, we can go on and on narrating Swami's teachings and experiences, but unless we put it into practice ourselves in our daily life, it'll be nice to listen to it. It'll be nice satsang, and it is wonderful to be in the Sai family. But I hope and pray that Swami gives us all the strength to do our little bit, to be happy. So as Swami says, be happy, be happy, be happy. Make others around you happy. Be full of love, be full of love, be full of love. And share that love with everybody around us. If we can do this, then every moment or every day in our life, that is the biggest sadhana that we have done. So with those words, I would say Sai Ram to everybody, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Seva doesn't always have to be this big thing. People are like, oh, you have to get 100 people together and you have to feed 1,000 people in Australia. That's not the point, but that Seva can be actually very one-on-one, individually, just helping a neighbor, helping a friend, helping somebody in need, just being there, listening, helping them, encouraging them on their path, or maybe telling them, like, maybe you have to rethink your path because the way you're going is not, to me as an outsider, is not that, prudent. And I think that's something I would like to sort of put forth as a Seva project, that we can sort of, as I say, a little thing goes a long way, right?
Absolutely. I think, as you said, so many times, if you watch Swami, because for us, he's the example, how Seva is done. And he actually says in one of the discourses, Swami says that, you have come all the way from such long places. If I wanted, you have come here to see me. If I wanted, I could have sat on one chair in one place and you could have all come to me and I would have put a little basket there. You could have left your letters there. You could have just, I could have invited each one of you for Pad Namaskaran. But instead, what do? I walk towards you. I come to you. I bend down. I pick up your letter. You are all falling at my feet. You're all pulling this and pulling that. You will never see a single strand of frustration on Swami's face. There is always love. You've never seen him here raise his voice. It's always so soft. And he's continuously, sort of blessing people. He says that is an example of how to do your seva. I am doing you seva. So when you interact with people, how do you interact? When you talk to people, how do you do? In your action, what do you do? So he is setting us an example already in doing little things. I mean, we may think about the big projects of a hospital and water project and all that. That came when Swami was 70 plus. For the 70 years, the Swami's constant thing was interacting with people, giving them love, sharing a kind word, saying a beautiful smile. And that is the, example for us. We could be walking on a street. There may be a homeless person there, just, to go and then say, how's your day? I recently had one. This is not a big thing because we all do it. I just went to him and I said, what would you like? He said, I would love if you can get me a bar of chocolate. I said, fine. I went in, just gave him a bar of chocolate. He was so happy. And he made my day. I don't know whether I made his day. I'm sure I did, I think, with the bar of chocolate, but he made my day. But I felt happy. I went back to my work. This was just during lunchtime. I just walked out of my clinic. I just walked across the road and there was somebody there. So it doesn't have to be an organized project, an organized thing. Yes, great. I think when we come together as an organization or as a trust, wonderful. If we can all put our resources together and do something, but it doesn't stop us from actually practicing seva in everything that we do in our life.
It's very difficult with this pandemic to switch off your mobile and online devices, because a lot of people rely on that to communicate with other people. So maybe we leave that for later. But what I think as a Sai community we can do is reach out to people who are alone, elderly people, or even younger people. I mean, like I didn't realize this, but I have some students, and they said, if you're single between, let's say, 25 and 35 and not married, this pandemic is hell. Because basically they sit at home watching Netflix. So, and then of course you have the elderly people who may be, alone because their family is somewhere else and they are not so tech savvy. So reaching out to people and just doing the human touch thing, not necessarily knocking on the door and then breathing in their face, but somehow getting to connect with them and get in touch with them, and just, not counseling, but say like, how are you doing? Do you need anything? That would be something I think worthwhile.
We should look for opportunities. I remember once Swami saying to me, so Swami asked me, what are you doing? I said, Swami, I'm a doctor and this. And then he looked at me and he said, Swami's doctor. And then he said, you must, he spoke to me in Telugu, and the meaning of that is I must make myself, I must pierce into the society to do service. So I'm not waiting for an opportunity, but I'm going there looking for opportunities to serve. And so this is the mandate which Swami has given to all of us, not just to me. I don't think we need to wait for an opportunity to come our way. There are enough opportunities in this world, because that is again for our own benefit. It is not helping others is of course a natural corollary of this. But I think the most important thing is that when we look around, there is enough distress. And if that bothers me, then I must be able to go and do something in a little way. Our Swami's organization is a transformational organization. It's not a reformational organization. So when you say transformation of myself in my own heart. So I am looking at them as my brothers, my sisters, my mothers, my fathers who are struggling for something or the other. And if I can then together with our Sai brothers do something, that's the greatest thing that we can do. So we can be facilitators, definitely, and look for opportunities. The opportunities are there. So therefore we just need to go and look for it. We must have the heart to look for it. That's all.
Which also leaves another little aspect, since we talked about Seva extensively, but also there's Sadhana or Sadhana, which I understand to mean something like spiritual practice. And what I find very helpful generally, but also in these difficult times, is that you also have a personal sadhana, doing spiritual things to keep you sane and grounded and connected and faithful, and not lose faith, I don't know, in the government or the people, or the world is coming to an end or something like that, because it's not, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So any recommendations, like what are your personal we talked about this in the beginning, I warned you I'm going to ask this question, like what are your personal mental and spiritual health tips? What do you do? How do you keep sane and connected and clear and action oriented?
I mean, of course, I presume you're asking me in the context of the recent challenges, pandemic and the lockdown and all that. It's been quite a challenging time for all of us. To different varying degrees, we are all affected in one way or the other. We haven't met families. Our close friends have perhaps either passed away or have had difficult times. People have lost jobs, and various things that have happened around us. I think for me, spiritually fit by just your faith. That's fundamentally very, very essential, and I'm glad and I thank Swami all the time for having instilled in us that kind of faith. So faith in Swami, faith in God, faith in teachings, I think that has definitely been a big aspect of of looking at the whole thing with a smile. And the second is, yes, it is important, whilst the soul is there and it is encased in a body and encompassed by a mind. So it's important for us to look carefully and to keep your body fit. So I would definitely, whatever little exercise we can take, I think that is important to keep ourselves fit. Swami also says sound body, sound mind. We all know that. So to keep some activity going every day, to participate in some kind of daily chanting or maybe prayer or just silent sitting. The 9-point code of conduct sounds very formal, but you could be driving in a car and listening to a song or a bhajan or just chanting something, or so those things have kept me going. My profession keeps me in contact with different people, all kinds of problems, mental problems, physical problems. So I need to keep myself pretty much fit enough to do the job. And I very much feel that Swami has protected me in many ways. Vibhuti water, I do, for me that is a big thing. I start my day with Vibhuti water, fill my day with Vibhuti water, end my day with Vibhuti water. So it's a good medicine. It will keep you going. Keep in touch with Sai family members. Have 1-2 satsangs like this. I think, and there is one thing it has done, as you said, is given us multiple opportunities to be of service to our fellow beings, even our neighbors. If you just can go and say hello, if you know them, and that is enough. That is giving everybody. If you have friends, give them a ring. I mean, one of the things in Sai organizations, which I'm not sure how good we are, is sometimes we are very easily we can go and ask others. When I say others, outside people, how they are and what they're doing. Sometimes we don't ask our own center members how they are doing. So it's a good thing for each other to just call up a member of our Sai family and then say, how are you doing? Everything okay? Just spend a few minutes. I think that will be a wonderful seva in these times. So yeah, these are the ones that I have sort of tried to follow and keep myself fit. We want to be close to divinity, but even divinity wants to be close to us. You see, that is this is what we learn with Swami, especially when we are engaged in the service aspect. Then even Swami is very keen to be in touch with us, and he will be in touch with us. I mean, he is in touch with us irrespective. but we become that much more nearer and dearer when we are engaged in service activities. And for that, I remember once that a group of our youth, our youngsters, I was a part of the group, youngster as well, from Hyderabad, and they were doing a lot of service activities, and they were actually, for many days, they were doing the Seva activity in Gokulam, looking after the cows, and that needs, you have to go there early in the morning and look after the cows, and then you have to be there the whole day, cleaning up and everything. And for many days that they hadn't actually had the opportunity to attend darshan, because they were so involved in the Seva activities there. Then Swami sent word to via Chiranjeev Rao Garu. I'm sure many of you know him. Many of you know that gentleman, shortest gentleman. He used to be there. He is now merged with Swami. So sent word through him saying, these boys have not even come for darshan. I want to see them. Bring them here now. So it is so much. And when they went, then Swami said, hey, you are not coming for darshan even. I've been looking for you. You fellows, what are you doing? Okay, you take some time and come and for darshan and sit in the darshan so I can see you. So this is how the relationship between God and man, between us, the bond develops. And God also is looking to see us. We know the story of Abu Ben Adam, which Swami has narrated, which you all know. So this was a gentleman. Suddenly he used to go and feed everybody every day. So one day he sees a fairy, and the fairy is making a list of names. And then he goes and asks, what are you doing, mother? What are you writing? And then he says, I'm writing the names of all the people who love God. And then he says, oh, is my name on that list? And she says, he goes through it and then says, no, it is not there. And finally she says, yeah, it is somewhere at the bottom of the list, where he feels a bit disappointed. And then he says, okay, fine. And he just goes every day, still continues with his work. After a few days, again, the fairy comes and he sees her writing down a list. And he says, now what are you doing? What list are you making? And then she says, this time I'm making a list of those who God loves. And then he says, is my name on that? He's almost thinking that his name won't be there. He says, yes, your name is the first on the list. So, it is not important that we love God. It is important, but more important is that God loves us. And the only way God will love us is, as Swami says, the best way to love God is to love all and serve all. Therefore, for all of us, I think keeping this in view, keeping this aspect of loving as much as possible in our lives, spreading that joy. Once myself and a couple of our brothers, Kiran Patel, who is also a trustee now here, and another brother called Naveen Patel, they were Swami's first batch students in 1968. We somehow in UK, we felt that we should go to Africa and do Seva activities there. We just wanted, something in our heart was telling us, you must go to Africa and do Seva activities. Where to begin in Africa, such a big continent, and we are only small people. How much, you can't solve the whole continent. So we thought, where shall we go? What shall we do? Where do we start? So at that time, the zonal chair was a gentleman called Victor Kanu. I'm sure all of you know. Victor Kanu is was such a beautiful soul. Swami used to call him his Hanuman. And so he started this Sathya Sai school in Zambia, Andola. We went there, we saw, there's so many stories on that, which we can share another time. And I sat there and I asked him that, sir, when Swami, they used to live in London, and suddenly Swami asked them to go and start a school in Zambia. Neither he nor his wife are from Zambia. He's from Sierra Leone, his wife is from South Africa. And they were having a good plush life in London. Suddenly Swami said, you go and start it. So they sold their house. Then Swami, he asked Swami, how do I do that? Swami said, just sell your house and go and start. So he just sold his house and everything else, went to this new place and started it. That was their faith. That was they obeyed Swami's command like that. And that's why Swami called him Hanuman. So then I asked him, why of all the places, when Swami asked you to go and start a school here, what was the reason? What is it that he just smiled and he said, Swami said, spread my love. That is it. Whatever we do, whether we start a school, whether we go and do food bank service, or whether we go homeless service, or whichever service we do, spread my love is the command that has been given to all of us. So in our own ways, whichever way in which we can, through our talk, through our action, through music, through whatever that we do, through food, a lot of people need food. Give them good food, make them happy. A lot of people, there are, in our Sai organization and everywhere else, musicians and all that, they can, they spread Swami's love through their music. Somebody is able to knit something nicely. Go ahead and spread Swami's love through that. So whichever activity we undertake, there is no reason for love. As Swami says, there's no season for love. And therefore, we must totally grab this opportunity and engage ourselves in spreading Swami's love in as many ways as possible in our life.
देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्